This world is run by old men. There is a provocative theory circulating in political and economic discussions. Modern societies are increasingly shaped by the interests of wealthy retirees and older political elites. According to this view, housing unaffordability, expanding surveillance, pension-centered policy, and risk-averse governance are not accidental. They reflect demographic power. The argument is simple. In many developed countries, populations are aging. Retirees represent a large and politically active voting bloc. They tend to vote consistently, organize effectively, and defend their interests with discipline. Politicians seeking re-election respond to this reality. Public policy begins to prioritize pension security, healthcare stability, property value protection, and social order. Older does not automatically mean wiser. It often means more invested in preservation. Younger generations, by contrast, typically prioritize mobility, innovation, opportunity, and reform. They are more willing to tolerate risk because they have more time horizon ahead of them. Housing affordability, startup ecosystems, digital freedom, and structural reform matter more to them than preserving accumulated assets. When real estate becomes a primary store of wealth, and when older generations disproportionately own property, rising housing prices serve existing owners but disadvantage new entrants. Restrictive zoning laws, limited supply, and conservative planning policies protect value for current holders. The unintended consequence: young families struggle to buy homes. This is not necessarily conspiracy. It is incentive alignment. Political science and economics consistently show that policy follows organized interests. Older voters tend to have higher turnout rates. Younger citizens vote less consistently. Influence follows participation. In addition, many political leaders themselves belong to older age brackets. Long political careers, institutional entrenchment, and bureaucratic inertia reinforce continuity rather than radical change. Security politics also reflects generational psychology. Older populations often prioritize order, predictability, and risk reduction. Policies may include expanded surveillance, stronger border controls, and increased policing powers, all framed as stability measures. Technological governance adds another layer. Digital infrastructure allows unprecedented monitoring. Security narratives justify expansion. Stability becomes central rhetoric. Younger individuals, particularly those comfortable with digital mobility, may respond differently. Some choose relocation, moving to countries with lower living costs or different regulatory cultures. Others experiment with alternative lifestyles, remote work, off-grid living, decentralized communities. This divergence creates generational tension. However, it is important to avoid oversimplification. Not all retirees are wealthy. Not all older individuals resist change. Many younger voters also support stability. Political alignment rarely maps perfectly onto age. Still, demographic weight matters. When median age rises, policy often reflects preservation rather than transformation. Economists call this median voter theory. Political outcomes tend to reflect the preferences of the median voter. And if the median voter is older, priorities shift accordingly. Housing markets illustrate this dynamic clearly. Supply constraints combined with asset-based wealth models incentivize protection of property values. Immigration, labor market competition, and urban density become politically charged issues because they affect both housing and wages. From a structural perspective, the tension is not moral but mathematical. Different age groups face different time horizons. A 25-year-old thinks in decades of growth. A 70-year-old thinks in terms of asset protection and legacy. The challenge is not that one group is evil and the other virtuous. The challenge is alignment. Societies function best when long-term innovation and short-term stability are balanced. If preservation dominates entirely, stagnation follows. If radical change dominates without structure, instability follows. The question becomes, can intergenerational compromise exist? In theory, yes. Policies can support housing supply expansion while protecting retirees through diversified pension systems. Innovation can coexist with regulation. Security can coexist with civil liberties. In practice, compromise requires shared incentives. When groups perceive their goals as mutually exclusive, growth versus preservation, openness versus protection, polarization deepens. Each retreats into its own echo chamber. The result is fragmentation. The theory that the world is run by old men simplifies a complex demographic and institutional reality. Yet it highlights a structural truth. Political and economic systems reflect those who participate most consistently